Welcome to the very first episode of the Happy Ex-Jehovah's Witness podcast. I'm Mark Jones, I'm a psychologist and an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And in this podcast series, I interview ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who report that they are happy and content in their lives since leaving the religion. I want to know, what is it that they do? What's the difference that makes the difference in order to thrive outside of the religion despite what we were told? In this first episode, I interview Rose, who was a Jehovah's Witness for 31 years, and she will be relating some of her experiences while she was in the religion and some of the things that she's done since leaving, which has contributed to her happy adjustment. Now, I must pre-warn listeners that the first half of this interview does include relating previous experiences of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and a case of suicide. So listener discretion is advised. I want to welcome Rosie to the very first podcast interview. This is the Happy Ex-Jehovah's Witness podcast. Rosie, be honest with me now. You don't have to be happy. I want to make sure that I can tell the truth here. Are you happier now since leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses?
I wish I could say like 200, 300% because I am. It's a different type of happy. It's a authentic happiness. And I feel like I've truly found like a peace that I think when you are in the religion, you expect, I'm going to get this peace. If I keep doing X, Y, Z, you're meant to then get this achievement of peace that we all strive for. I didn't realize that actually now I've achieved that by being authentically myself.
Excellent. Because there's a running theme, isn't it? Because for context, I was in the organisation as well. I was born into it. In the 31 years I was in there, I always thought we'll be happy in the new system. We'll be happy then. We'll put up with life now. Put it off. We're happy in the new system. And there's this trope that if you leave, there's nothing out there. That was also something I was told.
Yeah.
I was terrified to leave. So were you told the same thing?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. So coincidentally, I was actually in it for 31 years as well. So snap. So I was raised in it as well, literally from birth. My parents went into it together. And then one stayed, one left. But I was brought up in it through and through. And I fully believed it. I thought the same as you, that if you ever leave, your life will be an absolute chaos. You will, I think back to like Watchtower pictures of basically as a woman, if you were to leave, you'd end up getting knocked up or you'd end up like basically with a druggie or like destitute on the street. So, all of these things. And it's just not like that.
No, that's definitely the images I was shown as well. I remember it's always women, end up getting pregnant and then their partner leaving them. That was the one. The partner would leave, they'd be left alone, probably addicted to drugs. I think for men, it was always portrayed that we left because we wanted to sin. I'm not. This isn't about me. It's about you. But I left. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same for you, because I wanted to know what truth was. I believed it was true as well. And I thought, I don't want to follow an organization if it's not true. Let's look what the Bible says. Let's research everything, because if it's not true, if it's a lie, I'll easily dismiss the lies and it'll be fine. And that's what led me out. So how did you leave then? What was your process for you?
Mine was really chaotic. And it wasn't easy at all. And I definitely got a bit of feedback then, sorry. I was definitely very conflicted because when I say I was the poster child Jehovah's Witness, I was. And I almost look back now and I'm like, oh, such a good Jehovah's Witness. But I've kind of learned to accept that was me. And I'm partially proud of how much I gave it, because I, like you, truly believed it. And I thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it correctly. But for me, why I left is because I went through severe amounts of trauma over the course of 10 years that kept kind of being ignored, dismissed. The protocols within the religion just kind of kept telling me to be a good wife, all these different things. And then when it finally came to the crux of a very, very awful traumatic situation, which I can go into in a little bit, I almost saw behind the curtain. I had this like hope that we're a brotherhood, like, the elders will look after me, or the congregation, or these friends, these brothers and sisters will look after me. And that wasn't the case. I basically almost got shunned before I did anything wrong. It was very much a cutting off. It was very much and it made me really question. Like, hang on a minute, I've been led to believe that this is the truth. This is Jehovah's organization. And it just made me feel very unsafe. I felt unsafe in the organization. And that's when I started to question.
Do you know what? It's very similar to me. I remember my wife at the time she had severe mental health problems, which I think now in hindsight was caused also by being a Jehovah's Witness. And she was actually went to hospital for it. And I remember the elders at the time constantly visited me asking why I'm not going on the ministry, why am I not answering up as much? And they knew she was in hospital. She knew I was essentially a single parent at the same time now, visiting her, working full time. And they were more concerned about how much I was doing in the organization.
Yeah.
And have I done something wrong to warrant me not attending meetings as much as I used to? But that, I can relate that there's a real lack of love I found in the organization. I know people listening to this, some of them might be Jehovah's Witnesses, and some, I relate that if you're in the clique, if you're on the social clique, the center of the congregation, you'll feel the love from the brothers and sisters because they all want to be in that clique, but if you're not in it, you don't get it. So is it this idea that it's a loving organization? It really isn't.
I think that was for me. It was a real shell shock. Are you getting that feedback as well, or just
no?
Me?
No, it's just me.
We're good. I can hear my own voice back, and it's horrible.
No, it's fine.
So, are you happy for me to go into a little bit more?
Yeah, please. Please.
So I literally was, when I said earlier, I was the poster child. So I pioneered for nearly 10 years, regular pioneered. I worked at the local assembly hall every 2 weeks. I went down and helped on the Bethel build in London multiple times when that was going on. I volunteered on construction, so I'll go and build Kingdom halls. So, and I did the special metropolitan witnessing in Birmingham where I was. So I was in it, super in it. So I was kind of in the clique. I was in that. I knew hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses in the Midlands and beyond, because I would go down and do need grating in the south of England and all sorts. And I went up to Scotland to do. So it was, it was a lot. And I will honestly sit here for any Jehovah's Witnesses that are listening to this. I loved it. I absolutely thought I am doing God's work. I am I've got this brotherhood around me, and I feel I would, at the end of the day of working really hard, I'd be like, I did it. I achieved something good. Now I realize, being out of it, that wasn't true satisfaction. It was because of the rhetoric that I'd been brought up to believe that if I did those things, I was acceptable to God. I was acceptable to my friends. So it was that was actually kind of my driving force, rather than what I thought was this love, this unity. And then I was always striving to be in the clique. I can remember that feeling of, I just want to be accepted. And I was very different. I've been diagnosed with ADHD since leaving. And I realized that my brain works a bit differently. And if your brain works a bit differently and you don't quite meet that kind of perfect poster Jehovah's Witness, they look at you a bit funny. And I always, I struggled. I grew up in a congregation where I didn't get on with the group of girls. And obviously, as you know, growing up in it, dare I have friends that were brothers? Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
There was I can remember my own dad saying to me, no, you can't hug the brothers. I grew up that I wasn't even allowed to hug them, as in I remember genuinely when I was about 11 or 12 thinking if I hugged a brother I'd get pregnant. I didn't understand. I was like, no, I can't touch a brother. Oh my God, I can't hug them. In the
Jehovah's Witnesses, you only have to speak to somebody of the opposite sex and they think you're going out, don't they? Or you fancy them or something.
Absolutely. So it was that that fear and that, and we had groups of boys and girls in the upbringing that I had, but it was very much, you had to keep it very, very segregated. And the group of girls that I grew up with, they were so cliquey and I didn't fit in. And I think because I was that poster child Jehovah's Witness, they kind of tested the boundaries and did do things that were the organisation would say is wrong. I was always the goody two shoes, as they would put it, which is quite hilarious now that they're still all in it and I left.
So so it just goes to show, doesn't it? So you had 10 years pioneering, you've had needs great witnessing, you've had quick builds. I think you don't do those things if you're pretending to believe it, because I've had people say to me on TikTok and social media, other social media, that, oh, you can't have really been a Jehovah's Witness, or the truth wasn't in you, right? So you don't do those things unless you really believe it. It's a waste of time otherwise. I've been giving talks at the circuit assemblies, and I never pioneered. I auxiliary pioneered a few times, and I was a stand-in talk speaker. Now that's attending every meeting, attending to assemblies, preparing. You don't do that if you're pretending, because you'd think, why would I bother?
Exactly. You know? Yeah, exactly.
It's the same. It's the same with you.
Yeah, it was. It was the same. It was true. Fully believed it, fully was waiting for paradise to happen, sacrificing traveling, sacrificing a good job, sacrificing all those things, sacrificing having children, because you're told you're going to be able to do all those things in the future. But then, like I say, for me, it was a real turning point. So I got married very young, like many of us do. And unfortunately, my late husband, he had a Jekyll and Hyde personality, and I saw a little bit of it when we were courting, as they call it, but it was very hidden. I remember even speaking to his mom about a week before we got married, and he had kind of pushed me a little bit, and I got really upset, and she was like, he's just stressed, he's not like this usually at all. Little did I know, literally 2 weeks into being married, the domestic abuse just started. And it never stopped, really. There would be moments where I'd go like maybe a few months, or even the longest it went was 4 years without being physically hit. But we were together for 10 and a half years married, and I went to the elders countless times about all of this.
Right, I was about to ask that, actually.
Yeah, so I went to the elders. The very first time I went to the elders was about let me think, let me gather my thoughts. First time I went to the elders about the abuse was about 1.5 years into us being married. And I had been kind of hiding it. And I just got to breaking point, because it was such control. I was only 20, and to give you an idea of it, it was very much being locked in my own house, being told when to go to bed, being strangled up a wall. It was on the way to the meeting, being told don't talk too much, because he was very quiet, and he was like, you're not giving me a chance to talk, and I'd get punched in the leg on the way to the Kingdom Hall, and I'd be like, right, okay, and we'd pull up in the car park, and he'd go, come on, happy families now, and I'd be like, So but the difficult thing is because he was so quiet, and then we'd go into the Kingdom Hall and it'd be so helpful to the elderly sisters, and so, wouldn't say boo to a goose, or whatever that expression is, no one would believe me. And so I endured that for a really long time. And when I did go to the elders about it, the very first time, my late husband, he refused to have a shepherding call. He wasn't a ministerial servant or anything at that point. The elders basically said, I'll go on the ministry with him. So they arranged a ministry shepherding with him, 1-to-1. And then they just told me it's all been settled. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, Rose, that's I can't begin to imagine how difficult that was for you. Unfortunately, I've heard this from a few other women that I've spoken to in the past who are Jehovah's Witnesses. People I've known, and the brother I'd known as well at the time. And unfortunately, as you will know, in the organisation, first of all, the congregation will never hear about it, because the elders keep that locked up. And even if you did tell the congregation, they wouldn't believe you, because you're a woman.
This is the problem. This is literally the problem that I had. And it went on for 10 years where I'd forgive him, because I loved him. That's why, just taking the religion out of it for a moment, because I've had a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses on my TikTok go, oh, well, that was his decision separate to the organisation. And I'm like, I agree to a point. Yes, that was his behavior towards me in our relationship separate to the religion. However, what didn't help was the fact that within the religion, you've got man is the family head, you have to do as I say. So it breeds that behavior.
Exactly. And of course, it's a two-witness rule as well. So there would need to be two witnesses before it'll be taken seriously by anybody in the organization. And had you went outside and spoke to the police or therapists, what do you think would have happened?
Well, this is basically, if I fast forward, I mean, I could literally sit here for the whole of this interview and tell you everything that happened to me. If we fast forward to the end of our relationship, so this is where it gets quite deep. I ended up going to the police because I'd been having some therapy, mainly because I've been diagnosed with depression. Now I look back and think, no wonder I was depressed. I was in a cult and I was in a domestic abuse relationship. However, it started to make me question things a little bit because I was like, okay, I shouldn't be being treated like this. And I was going to the elders and they were saying, just keep being a capable wife and keep forgiving him. And we're really proud of you for staying with him. That was the rhetoric I was getting from elders. I eventually decided to separate because, as you know, there is grounds for separation within the organisation. And
also, for context of those listening who don't know, the Jehovah's Witnesses, you can't have a divorce unless one person commits adultery. So domestic violence, you are allowed to separate, but you can't get a divorce. Sorry.
No, thank you for. I completely forgot about explaining that.
Right. Sorry. So he became controlling. He was. I remember seeing a post earlier you made where he would send you text messages asking where you were.
Yeah. So I had messages where he was tracking me, getting me to make sure I turn my phone location on. Why haven't you got your phone location on? Where are you? I would tell him where I was and he was like, I know where you are. And I was like, well, okay. Physically, he was very abusive. I unfortunately also came to realize when I did go to the police and informed them of everything that had happened, I realized that I'd been sexually abused and raped throughout the whole of my marriage. And that was a huge realization because being raised in a religion that is very insular and we're told we can't really talk about sex, we can't really talk about these topics. And if you try and ask anyone for any kind of advice, you're seen as a bit like untoward and I don't know how to word it. But
yeah, I think the issue of personal boundaries within the organization anyway isn't there, so nobody respects personal boundaries, let alone the husband that you had at the time. But the elders won't respect boundaries. They'll ask you, walk into your home, ask you anything they want. The organization wants to know what you're doing, who you're hanging around with. So the boundaries, you're in an environment where boundaries aren't respected anyway. You're also in a patriarchal society where your husband can do and say pretty much what he wants and everyone will believe him. So you come to that realization. It sounds absolutely awful, by the way. So what led to you then? I suppose I want to say what happened next, but also what happened next, and then what caused you to end up leaving the organization, I suppose.
That was a turning point for me when I did speak to the police and I did speak to the elders. From that, literally, I'm just trying to remember this. So that was on the Tuesday. 3 days later, from me telling the police, telling the elders, they then spoke to my late husband. And from all of this, he took his life.
I see.
So
as a result of, was that just like pressure or something, or was it the fact
obviously
being found out,
I've asked this question myself countless times.
Regardless of the reason, I mean, sorry, I was going to say, but regardless of the reason, that's not you. That's not your fault.
Thank you.
I hope you know that.
None of that is your fault. It's took a lot of therapy. I think that it was a moment where the shock. I've had a lot of therapy to cope with all of this because the night before, I remember I logged on Zoom onto the meeting because I was trying to still be like spiritual. I'm like, I'm going to go to the meeting even though I've got a whole police investigation and my husband and blah, blah, blah. And he was at the meeting and he answered and I heard his voice and he was like, sometimes he gave the example of David and how He said something along the lines of like, sometimes we go through horrible pressures in life, and sometimes we have people make things up about us, but we just have to fight through it. And I was so the hurt in my heart, because I thought, how can you say that when I finally did, like, because I still loved him. I was trying to get him to get help,
Yeah.
and then he just escalated. So I was like, I can't save me and save you. I think that's what
Yes.
that was the moment, that was the guilt that I do feel. And I've learned to work through that, is that I wanted to try and save him, but I couldn't save him and save me.
No.
And I had to work through that. But that was a big turning point for me, because obviously he took his life. He then ended up on life support for 4 days, nearly 5 days. His family, who are witnesses, were absolutely horrible to me, and they made a smear campaign saying, Rosie has gone crazy, don't listen to her. It's her ADHD, she's gone mental. I also, my ex-husband had gone around all of his friends and said, I think she's cheating on me. So whatever she says, don't listen to her, because she's cheated on me. So I still have people to this day that believe I cheated. And so I went through all of this. So even after he died, I didn't get any support within the organization, because they all thought that I was like a lying, cheating whorebag that killed her husband.
Right. And
And
again, the circular nature of the organization. I mean, the gossip, as you know, in the organization is huge, isn't it?
mhm,
Everywhere you go, you only got to one thing has to happen, and the entire circuit will know within a day.
yeah,
Of these things you've told me about your late husband, there's
mhm,
plenty of things, as a psychologist, that come to mind that I go, I can see what's happening here. But we're not going to go into that, because this is about you, for one
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Secondly, it would be unethical for me to speak about somebody who obviously is no longer with us.
yeah.
But thank you for sharing that, the trauma side of it. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been for you, but thank you for telling us. I'm glad you went for therapy. And let's just talk now. You've left the immediate situation after you left. What were your biggest challenges, and what were your emotions at that time?
Yeah, well, leading up to me leaving, the reason why I started, it was a slow burn for me. Some people have like a quick leave, other people they wake up within it and then they plan their exit.
Yeah,
For me, it was kind of a mixture, because I had all these doubts, but for a long time I thought I was the poison. I can
right.
remember saying to my own dad, who is an elder still, saying, I feel like I've been poisoned from this whole situation, because I don't love the truth anymore, and I don't feel safe there anymore. And it got to a point I was having panic attacks at the Kingdom Hall. I couldn't, I felt
I
so
can relate.
unsafe.
Yeah.
And I thought I was the problem. Um, I then basically took myself on a little like solo holiday. So this was 6 months into being a widow. I had, in those 6 months, had people turn around to me and say, we can no longer be your friend, because we were friends with you and your husband, and we don't want to get involved, so you'll find new friends. I had other Jehovah's Witnesses turn around and say, well, we heard that you cheated, so we don't want to get involved. I had other people literally body barge me at the convention, because I still tried to go to the convention
Mm.
about 2 months before I actually left. And I had one brother walk past me, and obviously, yes, it's crowded, I appreciate that. But he full on shoulder barged me and then shook his head and spat at me. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that was all just from gossip.
And this is an organization that will probably tell you that they don't judge. They don't judge
Yeah.
people. They're free
Yeah.
to forgive.
And so all of that behavior led to me basically running away, as I call it. I was like,
Yeah.
right, I'm going. I can't deal with this. I took myself off to a little holiday. Basically, I just
But
said,
you
I
see,
remember
yeah.
saying, yeah, I just went away for a week, and I was like, no meetings, no talking to anyone. I just want to be by myself. However, my ADHD was very bored within about a day. And I love going to the gym. That's been a big therapy for me. So, if anyone is wondering how I am coping when I was coping within it, but also coping out of it, exercise is therapy for me. Absolutely. It helps clear my
You've
head.
actually
It helps give me routine. Oh, sorry,
you've
go
hit on
on.
something. No. So I'm just I don't want to touch it, but at the same time, you've hit on two things there without realizing it, right? So when
Mm,
I speak to people who are leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, or have left, or any other high control group, there's two important things. First of all is you won't get better in the same environment that you got sick. Okay, so there's a reason why the org gets paranoid about people stop attending meetings. Because if you stop attending meetings, like what happened with COVID, you have time to think. You have time to recalibrate, and you realize some things just don't seem right, right?
Yeah.
And you also realize most likely that you can cope pretty fine without attending meetings and without reading literature. Your brain kind of recalibrates things. And the second thing is you hit upon going to the gym. We call that behavioral activation. So do something, anything. Don't sit there at home wallowing in it. Don't scroll on TikTok and Reddit and stuff and get angry. You do it for a time. It can help, but stay in that phase where you're just looking at the scandals and talking about it. Do something. Go to the gym. Join an art class. Go and. I mean, I would say stay away from other religions for a time, but do something. So in your case, it was going to the gym, right?
Yeah, for me, it was going to the gym, and all those 6 months when I was like physically in the religion but questioning.
Yeah.
I was going to the gym, and this is where I started to have like a little bit of like outside world friends, kind of. Like I was getting to know them a little bit. I was having interactions, and they were more supportive than most of the friends within the religion. I will sit here and say I had probably about 5 very close Jehovah's Witness friends who are still in it, and I will never be able to repay them for how they helped me in that time. And I hope they wake up. Like you said, good people, unfortunately misguided. But the truest friends that I made, one of my best friends was someone that I met in a gym class. And we are such good friends to this day, and she's really been there for me. So it was going to the gym. So then when I went on this like little, find myself, go for a week away, I went to the gym. And when I went to the gym, I met my now husband. Completely not expected. And what was interesting is I basically 2 weeks prior to this, a month prior to this, I'd gone on holiday to Portugal to see some Jehovah's Witness friends. And I'd prayed to Jehovah fervently. I'd said, please, you say you won't let me go beyond what I can bear. I can't go beyond this. Like, I don't want to live anymore. Like, I cannot cope with the injustice, the lies, the grief. Just give me a friend. Just give me someone that will be there for me. Take some of the pressure away, anything. And nothing happened. And that was like, okay, maybe Sky Daddy, maybe he's not really, is he real? And I started to have all these questions. And then 2 weeks prior to this holiday to Wales, I said another prayer, but this time it was different. And I prayed to anyone. It was the very first time I went, I remember I'd had a glass of wine as well. And I remember going, Jehovah, Satan, guardian angels, Krishna, whoever is listening, please just help me, okay? Universe, manifestation, whatever it is, I need help. And basically 2 weeks later, I went on holiday, and I don't know what I'm still figuring out what I believe, but I do believe I was meant to meet my now husband, because long story short with that, we met. I went to the gym. We were just chatting. Literally, I forgot my headphones. He let me borrow some headphones, and I was like, "Thank you so much," because you can't go to the gym without headphones. It's awful. And we just got chatting, and he went, "You've got a story," and I was like, "I actually really do."
You do?
I do. And he was like, would you want to go for coffee? And obviously, as you know, alarm bell straight away. I was like, oh my goodness, a worldly person asked me out on a date. But there was like a bit of me that was going, do it. Like,
And did you find like so-called worldly people, as we used to call them, non-Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not the way they are portrayed in the literature at all. I found them a lot more friendly, a lot more forgiving. If they're your friends because they want to be your friend, not because of what religion you are. And dating was easier. I found dating easier as well.
Yeah.
So much less pressure.
So much less pressure, and just sincerity. And anyway, we went for that coffee, and as we were like chit-chatting, because I remember having this moment in my brain going, okay, I haven't got literally hardly any friends in the organization that I've given my whole life to, and yet this complete stranger has shown more compassion to me in an hour of conversation than all the people that I grew up with in an organization over the last 6 months when my husband literally like took his life. And I was like, I'm going for the coffee. I'm doing it. So I went for this coffee and we're just sat there chatting. And I did say to him, I was like, look, just so you know, this isn't going to be like a holiday fling. I'm not that kind of girl. Like, I've gone through a lot of trauma. I'm not looking for that. And he went, no, I really respect that. And I was like, look, I've been brought up really religious. I'm kind of still am, but I didn't mention the Jehovah's Witness thing because I just didn't. And then he turned around and went, I really respect that. I actually used to be a Jehovah's Witness, so I really respect that. I know. And I literally, I went, I am one kind of still, but I'm questioning it. And then I did go, I probably shouldn't be here having a date with you, should I? And he just laughed.
Yeah. And you know what, as well, I've noticed straight away, right? Out of all that you've been through, of all the time you've been in the organization, at what point did somebody sit you down and say, you've got a story to tell, let me hear it. Let me hear from you. I want to listen to what you're wanting to say. The elders didn't ask you then.
The elders didn't do that. Like, I didn't have true friends do that until it was people on the outside of the organization. I did have some close friends, as I said, that, you know, I have still had a couple of messages with a couple of friends, obviously I won't name any names, that are still within the organization, who still send me the odd message, and then you can tell they feel really guilty about it because then you don't hear off them. But I've said to them, I love you and I will always be here for you. And I know that they're good people, and I just hope, like I say, that they'll wake up. But we wouldn't have been friends if it wasn't for the fact that joint connection of the religion. Since being out of the religion, I've made, like I say, some really close friends, and I met my now husband, and he was a huge catalyst in helping me wake up. He wasn't the reason why I left. I know that there was a lot of rumors because obviously I met him. I did pursue a relationship with him, which then led to me having a committee. They're horrible.
Did you bother going? Did you bother going to it? Okay. Now, before I'm actually going to tell me this anyway. I'm going to take a wild guess, because you're a woman. I bet you the elders asked questions that had nothing to do with them. Inappropriate questions, right? They don't ask men these questions, by the way, listeners. They only ask women these very specific questions when it comes to, I'm guessing, sex, right? So without going into it.
Do you want me to know? Do you want me to tell you what they said?
Okay, everybody, here we go. This is what they ask women in judicial committees.
They turned around and they said, so was it penetrative?
Okay.
And I was like, yep, pretty sure it was. And they turned around and they went, well, you can still be friends with him. We could tell you're repentant because you wouldn't have confessed to it otherwise. Because I did. I told them, I was like, look, I've done stuff. And met up with them, and they turned around and they went, well, you can still be friends with him, but just not have a relationship with him. And I turned around and went, so you're saying that? I went, hang on a minute. Because they'd asked me, there was lots of other questions that they asked that I won't go into. But that was the one that made me laugh the most, if I'm completely honest. But they turned around and they went, well, we can keep you in the religion if you are just maintain a friendship with him. And I said, isn't that a bit hypocritical? Because you say bad association spoils useful habits. So you say not to have friends with worldly people, but you're making an allowance so that you can reprove me and keep me in. So wouldn't that then be hypocritical?
And also notice the fact that these are men telling you what you can do. You can have a relationship with them if you want. No, not a relationship. You can have a friendship with them. You can stay in the religion as if it's none of your business, none of your concern. We'll tell you what you can do.
Yeah, it was so fascinating. And in the end, I said to them, I said, my issues with me sitting in this committee right now, I said, the reason why I've asked for this committee is that I want to leave. I said, and I have done something that is against Bible principles, according to you, and I have let you know about it. I said, but in all honesty, if I wasn't sat here because of that, I would be writing a letter right now. And they were like, why? You've done so much for it. We love you. And I was like, yeah, I do, one person that was sat there is like a dad to me. And I got really upset. And I said to him, I was like, I love you too, but I've been asking for 10 years for support, and you haven't given it. And then they turned around and went, well, we'll help you now. And I went, too little, too late. I was like, that's ridiculous. So then I remember turning around to him and went, just let me leave. Just let me go, because I don't want this anymore. I said, I can't sit in the Kingdom Hall and with all these hypocritical people. I can't sit here with all of this. And now you're telling me I can kind of have this worldly person that would not be allowed in any other circumstance apart from you're trying to keep me in the religion. So then basically, I then got announced about a week later. I was an absolute mess. I won't lie, my whole world shattered. I was partially happy because I had the starts of a new relationship going on.
Yeah.
He also understood everything that I was going through. So, oh my goodness, I can't thank him
That
enough.
helps.
It was so helpful. It was instrumental. But equally, my whole world imploded. I had friends texting me because I had told them that it was going to be announced. I'd spoken to the elders to check it was okay, which is so funny. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, we're so controlled when we were in it.
Yeah.
And I'd had all these goodbye conversations, which, if anyone is listening, the trauma of having to call up your best friend that you've grown up with and go, hi, I love you. I'm not going to be able to speak to you now. I'm being disfellowshipped, or they now call it removed. I just wanted to let you know, and I love you very much. And they turned around to me and they were like, we understand why you've done what you've done and why you want to leave. Like, it's not safe for you, but we hope that you come back. And obviously we won't be able to talk to you now until you come back. Love you, bye.
And that's the end of that, isn't it? That's the love that they have for each other. Really, it's conditional. So yeah. You're relatively new out of the organisation, aren't you? So this is July 26th. When did you leave, or was this fellowship even?
November 2024.
Right. So it's about just less than 2 years.
Yeah, nearly 2 years. Yeah, so it's like just over 18 months since I left. So yeah, I actually went to a few meetings wearing trousers.
All right, that came in right after I left. Well after I left. So let's talk about the changes you've had since then. So psychological changes. How does the way you think now compare to the way you thought when you were Jehovah's Witness? When it comes to things like decision making and self-compassion, self-confidence, things like that, is it the same? Is it better? What's happened?
It's so much better. It took a long time, I'll be completely honest. So I've had extensive therapy. I had EMDR therapy. It was amazing, and my therapist was fantastic. And what was interesting is I was really reluctant, even at the very beginning, to even talk about anything to do with the organization. But as it started to spill out, he just went, I've treated a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I was like, okay, and it just all started coming out. So
you have no idea, by the way, in the psychological sphere, how many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses we deal with, right? Sometimes they don't know I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I don't tell them. Out of all the former cult members I've dealt with, and my colleagues have dealt with, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are right up there. Or even active Jehovah's Witnesses who are struggling with mental health. So if you are Jehovah's Witness listening to this and you're struggling with mental health, it's very common in the organization. When you leave and speak about it, you'll learn how common that really is. There are people out there who can help you. So sorry, yes, continue.
No, it's fine. It's I completely agree with you, and it's actually why part of my healing has been obviously sharing on my TikTok, but also I'm studying psychology myself now.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. So
where are you studying that?
Yeah, it's an American university actually. I'm doing it online.
Yes.
So it's been so healing for me, the therapy that I had, and also being able to kind of I was really reluctant for a long time to share what I'd gone through, because I was putting it all together myself. I feel I joke that I had a bit of an existential crisis, because I remember my obviously you being a psychologist yourself, I had my very first therapy session, and I look back at it with absolute hilarity now, because I sat down with my therapist and I was kind of talking a bit about it when I finally opened up about being an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I went, so like, what's the rules out here? Like, what's my boundaries? Like, how do you like navigate boundaries?
Right.
And he was like, your boundaries are what you make them. And I was like, yeah, no, I need like rules and like govern, like how do you like figure that out? And he was like, okay, we've got a lot of work to do.
Sorry. You'll find actually a lot of people who Jehovah's Witnesses in a comment section of my TikTok or my Quora account, they'll comment saying, "Well, what is that? What else is there? If this isn't true, what's the truth?" Because they're so used to being told what's true, rather than just going out and figuring things out or taking a step back. They're so used to being told what's true, told what their boundaries are, told what they're allowed to be. And the truth is, you don't have to be anything, right? And
Yeah.
and I've written about an article about this yesterday. You can't put a label on a person and say that's what they are. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm a psychologist. I'm also a pet owner and a father and a husband and lots of other things. You can't say someone is an apostate or an ex-Jehovah's Witness and that's it. There's so much more to people than that.
Yeah.
And in the real
Yeah.
world, as you touched upon, Rose, the boundaries are what you decide they are. You decide what your boundaries are and you stick to them. You figure things out. You make
Exactly.
mistakes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine. You figure out what you like, what you don't like. And that's part
I
of it.
fully agree with you. And it took me a while to process that.
Yeah.
The deconstruction is really hard. So if there is anyone that is, I have people daily message me on my TikTok as well that will say, like, how do I even do this? There's active Jehovah's Witnesses reaching out to me saying, I'm aware
Yeah.
that it's a cult, I'm in a high control religion. Like, how do I navigate this? And I will try and help them and say, like, right, we need to. I know that it happened quite fast for me, and the jump was a lot, as in from the moment that I decided to actually properly leave, that was quite quick. The questions happened for about, like I say, about 6 months. But when I finally did leave, I still believed it. If I'm completely honest, I still
Okay.
believed it, but questioned it and didn't quite understand. I hadn't made that jump where you have some active Jehovah's Witnesses realize whilst they're still in it, they have that waking up moment and then they're figuring out how they can fade or leave and things like that.
Yeah.
It was the opposite way for me. I was physically out, believed it, kind of didn't want to call it a cult, didn't want to, had all this weird feelings towards it. Almost for quite a while, for about 6 months, I shelved it. I didn't look at anything like apostate TikTok. I didn't look at Reddit. I didn't look at anything for a good 6, maybe even 8 months after I left. I just wanted to live.
Yeah.
I didn't want to I didn't want to know. I almost just went, okay, well, I'll tell you what, if they're right, I'll die at Armageddon. I don't care.
Yeah.
That was my brain.
That's actually really a safe thing to do. I would say take a break from everything. Just let yourself
Yeah.
just let yourself exist, I guess, isn't it? Just yeah.
The,
So
the day I got announced, I went and got my nose pierced like a rebel.
I bought a cigar.
It's so funny, isn't it? Obviously, as you can tell, I've also then gone and got tattoos and all
Oh
sorts.
yeah.
And I love the expression. My favorite tattoo is I think you can see it. I got the bird
The
cage,
cage.
and it's
Yes.
open and the birds are flying,
But
and that's my
that's
representation of being free.
that's a great analogy. I
Thank
like
you.
that.
So that's
So
my favorite one.
so
Mm.
the big question is, I know I've mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes say, so what's the truth? Right. But
Mm.
in reality, where do you get, because I mean, I get Christians ask me this all the time. So where do you get your morals from? When you see bad things happen, how do
Mhm.
you now, as used to have all the answers, didn't we? But now we don't. What do you think now? When bad things happen or when you have to make moral decisions, where do you get them from?
It's a really good question. I feel like what I have come to realize is you can have atheists that don't even believe in God and they've got amazing morals. You
Yeah.
can have people of lots of different walks of life and they have a standard that they keep to. And I realize that's human nature.
Yeah.
That's not a religious rhetoric that we were taught to believe. And
Yeah.
so for me, I now live by almost like I don't want to call it the rhetoric or the ethos, but I'm very much, if I can be a good human and put positivity into the world, then I know that that will help me get positivity back. And
Excellent.
that's kind of how I live my life now. So I haven't, I did, like I say, after about 9 months of being out here,
Yeah.
um, I finally did start to like look into different religions, and I did a similar thing to you. I've seen some of your videos where I went, right, where is the truth then, and kind of like
Yeah.
went through it all. And then about another month later, I finally started to go on TikTok and look at different people's interviews, YouTube stuff. And actually, one of your videos is one of the first ones that I stumbled across.
Was it?
Yeah, I can't
Huh.
remember which one it was. Oh, I know I do. It was actually to do with it was to do with if you know of someone that basically like got divorced and then married someone 2 weeks later, then you're probably in a cult, or you're probably an ex-Jehovah's
Yes.
Witness or something. And it really made me laugh because I know of so many people that did that in the
Yes.
organization. And then, you know, I remember I literally nosedived about 3 hours of, I looked at the Australian Royal Commission, I looked at so many interviews. I looked at the history of the religion as regards to when they used to believe that black people would turn white in
Yes.
paradise, and
Yes.
all these horrible things. And I then went into, obviously he was my fiance at the time, I went into the lounge and I just went, babe, was I brought up in a cult? And he just went, yeah, babe, are you okay? And I just burst into tears and was like, I think I'm okay. But like, okay, so right, if that's what's happened, then like, what's the answer to I had like a
Oh,
whole
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
I had that whole moment of like, so does God exist? Does God not exist? Like, what do we do out here? Like, blah, 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 blah. I had, and for about a whole 2 days, I just kind of cried. And it's that foundation, because of that foundation that I've been brought up with, that many will relate to when you're questioning it. Your foundation goes from underneath your feet, everything you've been told. But now, what has been beautiful, and I really hope this, and I try and reiterate this to my followers, is you get to decide what you build into your foundation now.
Yeah.
And that has been so amazing. And it's interesting because since leaving, I reconnected with two friends. One is a exJW herself, but she never got baptized. We were friends when we were teenagers, and we've reconnected. We're now really, really good friends. She left when she was about, I don't know, 16. My other friend was from school, and I was never allowed to go out with her. We were friends at school only. We were in high school together for 5 years, and I met up with her. I messaged her when I was leaving because we kept in touch on Facebook a little bit, but I never told anyone.
Right.
And I messaged her when I was leaving, and she was like, oh my goodness, we hadn't seen each other for 16, 17 years, and we'd barely spoken in that time. And she was like, we're meeting up for a coffee. I met up with her and she was like, you do not know what the life is like out here. I need to teach you a lot. And she was
I love those
amazing.
meetings. I
Yeah.
had a similar thing with one or two extra witnesses. And I remember, because I was a Christian when I left. I left because I believed the Bible over the watch that time.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting up with an elder's daughter, which she hadn't officially left. She'd faded out. She managed to do it. And I met up with an elder's daughter, and she was like in the clique. She was so involved, and I still believed in God, I believed Jesus and all this. And she basically asked a question about Noah's Ark, and it got me thinking, and I couldn't get out of my head. And she has no idea to this day. Partly how I became an atheist, because just a question about Noah's Ark, and and another Jehovah's Witness person who now is, you know, a very good friend of mine now. And unfortunately, we grew up in the same congregation, and I had nothing to do with him at the time because it's not one of us. He doesn't go into ministry very often, you know. But you could say he saw through it before I did. So who's the bigger fool?
Well, I feel like having these connections that I've made, again, some from my past that I've now got so in my present, it's been so healing, because they've said to me when I've met up with them, they're like, I feel like I'm meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, the real you.
And it's the real me. And they were like, and when I was in the religion, I spent years being given tablets for depression, tablets for anxiety. I went through a lot of suicidal tendencies. When everything happened with my late husband, I did try and take my own life. Within that year of me trying to stay within the religion and all the pressure I was under, I tried to take my life, of which elders turned around to me and said, well, we know you've already stepped down from being a pioneer, but just so you know, you can't help on fitting the carpet in the Kingdom Hall because you're not exemplary anymore because you tried to take your life.
As if that's what you want to hear at that time.
You know, when I was a widow, I was being ostracized before I'd even done anything wrong. And I still went, yeah, you know, actually, it would be really quite nice to get out and fit some carpet because it will give me something to do because I'm just grieving, and I could really do with like something to distract me. And they went, oh, no, you can't help because you're not exemplary anymore because, obviously mentally you're not very well.
Now, you brought me to an interesting question here now, because now this is a therapeutic technique, but we're not going to do the proper technique. It's just a very quick question, sort of. So you're the real Rose that we have now, the real you, the authentic you, after all that we've been through, you come out of this, you're happier now than you were before. What would you say to Rosie 10 years ago, 5 years ago, who was heavily in it, fully believed it, loved the organization, was in it, but despite those things going on, what would you say to that person? What do you think you'd say?
You know, it's interesting, Mark. I did this technique with my therapist.
A good therapist then.
It was so healing. I sat in one chair and I had to pretend I was talking to younger me.
Yes.
And I told her, I've got to be careful I don't cry now. I told her I'm really proud of her. And I'm really grateful for what she did because she didn't know any different.
Yeah.
I also told her that I'm sorry no one's listening to you. I'm sorry you've got to carry all this pain. I'm sorry that all you try and do is love people and you just keep getting hurt and you don't know why. But I said thank you to her for enduring because it meant that I can now be me.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No. I knew that would be an emotional thing. It wasn't going to go. That's why I didn't want to do it too harshly. I did this as well when I was first.
I got to get a tissue. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Feel free. No. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's quite profound. It's important that people hear that. But it's also for you to say out loud. So for Jehovah's Witnesses listening to this technique is part of Gestalt therapy. But if you imagine speaking to yourself, for me, I was a child when I spoke to my child version of myself, because I look back, because my childhood was awful in many ways. And I look back and I said the same things. I also remember saying something quite powerful, which physically changed me. So if Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are going to do this, this will change you, right? After you've done this, write it down as a letter or say it out loud, right? At the end of it, I remember saying that none of this was your fault. None of this is your fault. But from now on, I'll keep you safe. Because inside that person, Rose, as anybody else listening, that person is still inside you right now. That person, there's no closure. You can get closure by doing this, but that person's still there. There's aspects of yourself needing closure that are a bit frightened, or a bit upset, maybe guilty. And you can acknowledge that by trying that. So think what you would say to that person. And I don't mean like one or two sentences. And Rose, you know this. I'm talking to the listeners now. Sentences, 2-page letter. What do they need to hear? What do you need to hear? And it helps. It really does. I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that, Rose.
It was very healing, and I feel that I also then did the flip side of it. So I then pretended to be younger me in the past, talking to me now, and that, I feel, for me was actually more healing, because I carried, and I'm sure many of us who have left or are thinking of leaving, it's the guilt that is instilled, the guilt of making that choice. And I carried that for so long. And there's still elements of it. I still feel little tiny sprinkles of it every now and again. And I sat there and I said to myself, it's okay. It's okay that you made a different decision. It's okay that you woke up. I'm really proud of you for finally speaking up for yourself. I'm really proud of you for going to the police. And I also said, I'm so sorry you lost your husband. I'm so sorry you lost your friends. I'm so sorry you was raped. I'm so sorry you had to endure all of that. But then I also said, I'm so glad to see you so happy now and in such a loving relationship now and such true friends now. You know, since I've left, I won't sit here and pretend it's all been fantastic. It hasn't.
No.
I had moments where I thought, I don't know if I can do this because I'm so broken, because I've been so institutionalized. I felt like I was 31 years old as an adult, but I was an infant emotionally and physically. Like, how does the world function?
Yes.
And that's what that organization does to you. It keeps you very infantile.
Yes.
so that you only listen to them and listen to their control. So,
And if you ever do leave, you can't. You're in a world you don't understand, are not prepared for, and this is why people go back, because it's the
exactly.
familiarity, not having to think about anything. It's all laid out for you.
Yeah, so that was very difficult, but just saying I was proud of myself for fighting through that, because it took a bit of time, and I still have a few things happen. Like, again, like I say, my husband has been very instrumental for me, that we do have some jokes when I've had to literally ask him, like, so what's the like social situation with XYZ? Like, can you fill me in on how that works out here? Because it is different. I have I had trust issues, major trust issues,
Yeah.
and I trusted the wrong friends. When I very first left, I was very vulnerable, and there were some ex-JWs that weren't good association. I went out partying, I let off some steam, and they left me in some really vulnerable situations
Yes.
that they'd been out for quite a few years. And I think to myself, now I've been out nearly 2 years, I would never do that to someone that was newly
No.
left, because you're aware of the vulnerability, you've been there. So I'm really glad I'm not friends with those people anymore. And one of the best things about leaving the organization, you get to choose who your friends are. You don't have to be friends with people just because you're in the same congregation.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you do make mistakes, or a situation happens, you can say, "Okay, I won't do that again."
Yeah,
That's it. That's where it ends. That's where it ends. There's no punishment. There's no judicial committee. There's no one to confess to.
yeah,
Just you.
that's the beauty of it. And then the other side of it is financially and things like that. I did my training in my sports therapy, which was something I always wanted to do, but I put it off because I was pioneering. So I qualified as a sports therapist, which then led me into basically, when I was treating people, you're physically treating them, and then you're talking and helping counsel them, and they're telling you all about their problems, and you're like, the mind and body are connected. No wonder you're in so much
Yeah.
pain, because you're going through this, which then made me realize I had such a passion still for helping people. And
Yes.
that love that I had for pioneering, of helping people, going and spending hours trying to help unravel their life and kind of save them, I realized that wasn't because I was in the religion. That was because I really care about people, and that's a part of
Yeah.
my personality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now I can use that in a different way and utilize it in a different way. And I think you hit it on one of your videos, Mark. You said one thing as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses we need to really utilize is we have amazing work ethic,
Yes.
because we've had to study and meetings and ministry, blah, 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 blah. So that's something I'm trying to utilize. Okay, because I went to pioneer school twice. I did all this stuff. So the training that I did have, even though it was very a part of the organization, I've tried to utilize the qualities that I gained from that experience and transition it into why I'm now myself studying psychology
Yes.
and trying to help other people.
Exactly. I think what you're referring to was in the video. I think what you're referring to was the routine that we had. So there's meeting attendance, there was personal study, there was thinking about it when you're not on the ministry. There was all. But I took that with regards to university. So studying for the paper was not necessarily a piece of cake, really, because I've been doing it for 31 years.
I know how you
Um,
said piece of cake. Good
yeah,
save, good save.
yeah, nearly. So yeah, it's keeping that routine, isn't it? So for you or anyone else listening, if you're going to go into any higher education or a vocation or whatever it is, or a hobby, I would spend 2 hours on a Sunday doing a study, listening to a lecture. I'll do an hour minimum on a Saturday, writing about it, trying to regurgitate it in my head. Then there's Tuesday was an hour. When we were growing up, it was an hour on a Tuesday, wasn't there?
Yeah,
And there
yeah,
was
it was.
2 hours on a Thursday. And then between those days, when I wasn't writing about it or studying it, I was thinking about it. So it was constantly in my mind. I just replaced one thing with something else, which was actually useful this time. And
That's,
yeah, you're actually going to
it's,
use it, right?
I think that, and for me as well, one of the biggest things is we have spent so long putting off life, putting off truly loving, because we're waiting for the best life ever.
Yeah.
And in the 2 years that I have left, I started a new career and then expanded that to then obviously go into my psychology. I have got remarried, which is, I never thought I would fall in love again. I didn't even really truly believe in love, and I feel like I've actually experiencing love properly for the first time, which yes, not everyone needs that, but for me it's truly been healing. And to actually know what a true man is and true care, and to live in a home that I feel safe is all I've ever wanted, and I experience that now. I have my 2 doggies, so I'm a pet owner too. We've traveled. We now live in a completely different country. So I grew up in the UK, and I went, do you know what? On my bucket list is I want to experience living in another country. So I now live in Thailand.
In the space of 2 years.
In the space of 2 years, because I said to myself, part of the one thing that is difficult for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't know if you went through this, was my mortality.
Yes.
The realization, oh, I'm going to get wrinkles and I'm going to get old and I'm going to die. Like, oh no.
Yeah. And do you really want to lie? Do you really want to lie in bed at 85 years old and think, you know what? I wish I did less traveling. I wish I did less hugging my children or spending time with someone I love. I should have done more door knocking. I should have convinced people who I should have spent more time convincing people who don't even believe in my religion to join my religion. It's like, just live your life. Live your life.
And this is the point, is now I'm trying to enjoy, after so much trauma and so much pain, and giving so much of my life to something that, you know, I have battled with. I did a video recently on my TikTok about battling with the idea of lost time and lost opportunities, and it is something you have to come to terms with. You know, I recently, one of my close friends, she's in her 60s and she's just woken up and she messaged me, and having that friendship back again is amazing, but she feels so sad that she's lost so much of her life. And I've tried to say to her, like, the time that you have left now, do all you can with it, because that's all we can do. That's all we can do, is do the best that we can with the life that we have. And she did turn around and say, I'm still so grateful that I have had this realization. So I think the message I would try and get out to anyone that is questioning is to finally get to meet yourself and like who they are, and have likes and have dislikes, and have a peace within yourself that you feel like you're always striving for in that religion. I don't have that confliction anymore. I know who I am. I know what I like. And I have found a quietness in my mind that I didn't know was possible, because I'm not constantly worried about what a God thinks, or this person thinks, or have I said the wrong thing, or have I achieved that well enough. The only person I have that answer to is myself.
Yeah, sure.
And that is just, I don't know how you feel about that, but that in itself is worth it.
I remember also when I left, I lived my 20s and my 30s. So I left at 31, and everything, I was so passionate about everything, you know, everything interested me. And I think other people, the people I ended up dating, the people I ended up befriending, they were so, I think, surprised by the fact that I was so like amazed by, like, for example, going to a bar, like a nice bar with people I've just met, I'm having a drink and we're talking, and nobody's going to hook up, nobody's going to stab anybody, nobody asked me about religion, right? Or, you know, voting for the first time, or doing Christmas, or doing a birthday. I was so like enamored by it. Like, wow, this is so amazing. Wow, yeah, do this. And they're like, calm down. It's only a Tuesday. You know what I mean? But that kind of thing. And I think that also makes it easier for those listening. If you engage in the real world, if you jump into it and try new things, right? In the process of that, the right people come along. The people who find you interesting will find you, because some people won't like who you are. That I'm not for everybody, right? Some people don't like me, believe it or not. But the people who do like you, if you just be you and engage in life, do the things that you like, those people will find you. Like Rose, like your husband now, found you because you were in an environment getting involved that you loved, and so was he.
And that's the absolute thing, is that my friendships that I've made, and the you know, obviously the relationship that I now have, it was so organic.
Yeah.
and you don't have that in the organization. You think you do. I can remember thinking, oh, it's so good, we've got such a similarity in religion, and you might find people that have got similar interests to you, definitely, but it's not the same. It's so hard to explain unless you've experienced it like yourself. And it's funny you talking about those, that passion and that zest for life. Last year I celebrated my first birthday. It was amazing. And it's so funny because talking of that person still being kind of inside you the whole day, the like Rosie Jehovah's Witness was going, oh, you're so terrible. But I was going, shut up, shut up. I was just like that confliction in the past was kind of like in there a little bit. But I had the most amazing day. I went for a spa day. My husband, he was my fiance at the time, he got me a little birthday card that said happy first birthday.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
got I had a caterpillar cake. So,
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
what to do. First
cool.
birthday.
It's a rite of passage in the UK, isn't it, to have a caterpillar
It
cake for
is
your first
categorically.
birthday? So I had that as well. I celebrated my first Christmas with my family because I have blood relatives that aren't witnesses. So I was the only sibling that was still a witness. Everyone else had left. My
Awesome.
mom, my mum had drifted. My dad was still in it. He'd remarried. So I feel like when I left, I got all my family back, and I actually finally got to experience what it was like to be a part of my family. And that in itself is such a gift because I always felt so odd to them. And my big brother, like, it sounds silly that I'm going to cry over this, but my big brother got me my very first bauble for my Christmas tree.
Mm.
And it's the one that you get for like babies. It says like my first Christmas.
Oh, good to first.
And because it was my first Christmas. And I opened it and I burst into tears. And it was so funny. But I was like, he gave me such a big hug, and he said to me, he was like, Merry Christmas, Rose. And I was just like, I love you. And like it was so nice it felt like such a rite of passage. And there will be people, I do think it's important to note that there will be people that when I left in the November. That Christmas in the December, I didn't celebrate it. I didn't even
Same,
entertain it because I was just
same.
like,
Yeah.
I don't have an interest in it whatsoever. I'm not, whatever. I was very confused. But following year, I didn't get involved in any of the religious aspect. I just loved being part of the festivities
Yes.
of family tradition.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses think this, like, oh, you celebrate Christmas now. It's nothing to do with Jesus or Christmas or anything. It's you're getting your family round and having a drink and eating nice food. In fact, I celebrate Saturnalia. I say
Yeah, yeah.
deliberately because Jehovah's Witnesses say, "Oh, I suppose you celebrate Christmas now," and they tell me it's pagan. I go, "I know, I
Yeah.
celebrate Saturnalia," and they don't know, and they don't know what to say about that.
I know, it's so funny, isn't it? I've had the same thing happen. I had someone recently comment on a TikTok. I was like, so for our wedding, for me and Mike, we included like a Celtic tradition. So we included hand fasting, which is when you tie, it's where the expression tie the knot comes from. So you
All right.
get really nice ribbons and ropes, and you basically tie it around the hands, and together you make a knot. And that knot represents like the unity of your marriage. And it comes from Celtic tradition and almost like Viking Norse era. Um, and that was really special to us because my husband, he's half Welsh, and it was just a way that we could honor something in that way. And I know it made his mum very happy. But also for me, it was healing for me because never could we ever consider including anything like that. You would be called pagan, or it's
Yeah.
ritualistic, or it's demonistic. And it was none of those things. That beautiful symbolism really made our ceremony really personable. And so many people said, I'm really glad you included that. I hadn't really seen that done. We only had a really small wedding, but being able to do that without
And
any
it's
religious
yours.
connotation was
What it means for
beautiful.
you. Yeah, exactly. What it means for you, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we're just coming to the end of this interview now. Thank you for everything you shared for me. So I suppose the last question is, I'm kind of sort of answered it already, but I'll ask you again. So what advice would you give to somebody who's recently left the Jehovah's Witnesses and they hope to build a satisfying life? You've just left.
Oh,
What now? They're thinking.
I would tell them to go easy on themselves. Don't try and figure it all out straight away. I would say take a pause. Allow yourself to find what you really like. Focus on hobbies. Focus on building a bit of a social circle. So go to those places, like you said. Go to an art class. Go to the gym. Maybe have a coffee with a work colleague that you've got some things in common with. Start dating. Be careful of the weirdos. But put yourself out there, and you'll be surprised what you get back in return and the connections that you make. And ultimately, just enjoy life. That's what I would say to people. Have a zest for life, because when you're in the religion, all you're doing is having a lot of pressure, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, oh, I've got to get this right and that right. Go easy on yourself, and you'll see how your life really pans out. And I think the biggest thing that I would say to people, go to therapy.
Yes.
Go to therapy, because it just helps to organize the chaos. We've been brought up and institutionalized. We are brainwashed. I have been unbrainwashed. I've been deconstructed. And it's funny, I don't know if you ever heard this expression, Mark, when you're in the religion, if it was around when you were still in it. I used to remember people saying, oh yeah, I have been brainwashed. I've had my brain washed.
Yes. Oh God, yes, I remember this.
Yeah.
Even when I was a fully devoted member, I thought that sounded stupid.
It's so stupid. So now I would say to people, actually, we were severely brainwashed. And so therapy helps you deconstruct, helps you build a foundation, and helps you really find who you truly are. And the process is painful, but the benefit is totally worth it.
Rosie, thank you. Thank you for this interview. And you know what? I've just realized, looking at the time here, today is the 7th of July, 2026. Today is 10 years since I was disfellowshipped, to the day.
Woo! Happy anniversary!
Happy shuniversary, I call it.
Happy shuniversary!
I didn't realize. So it's 10 years today, and I've marked the occasion by interviewing from the very first podcast, Rose. Thank you for everything you shared. It's not been easy, I can tell. I'm glad you come out of it in a relatively short amount of time. And you're happier since leaving, and you give us some great advice there. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me, Mark.
If you've enjoyed this interview and you'd like to hear the full 80-minute version for free, check out my Patreon. Go to Patreon and search for exJW Recovery.